Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Investor Motivation Podcast. My name is Amy Lehman and I'm joined by Mr. Robert Gowdy.
G'day Amy, how you going?
Great, Rob, how are you?
Good, we're rolling out the podcast today and having a ball doing it.
Yeah, Rob's taking a little bit of time off doing some fun things, so we're going to try and get a few podcasts done so that there's a constant stream in for you guys.
Lots of information, lots of education, and today we're chatting about, how to find a financial advisor.
Yeah. Thought people probably, listen to these podcasts and that's all well and good having some information, but at the end of the day, I think we've hopefully put out there how important we believe personal financial advice is and why you should go out and find a financial advisor. But how do you know who to go to, what to look for, what to ask?
And how do you know what they're recommending is right? And I think that's something I grapple with a little bit, that you how does someone know what's been recommended is the best, or the worst, or anywhere in between. You don't know. You've just got to trust that the person you're dealing with is well trained, highly ethical, and we have rules and legislation set in place to make sure that at the end of the day, whatever we do, we have to put the client first.
All right. Before we get too far into everything, I'll do the acknowledgement of land. On behalf of the Investor Motivation Podcast, I would like to pay our respects to the traditional owners of the land on which we do record this podcast and pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging.
Thank you, Amy. That was awesome. Now let's start right at the process, probably in the modern era. What would we possibly do when I need financial advice for whatever reason. I've retired or just taken out a huge loan and I need some insurance or whatever the hell it is. The first step in the modern era, we're going to go and looking for reviews. It's going to be scrolling.
Jump on the internet. You probably search financial advice near me, and then hopefully someone awesome pops up. But to see if they're awesome or not, definitely check out the Google reviews. There's also a website called Adviser Ratings for all financial advisors in Australia. They're automatically put on there, and then they can have reviews put on there that way as well.
Yeah, so we've been advocates of that, and I've been using Adviser Ratings for many years, and we've got lots of testimonials on our website, lots of Google reviews. So we'd recommend that, and there'd be plenty of very good advisors out there that probably wouldn't give that the time of day for whatever reason, too busy or not. Yeah, that's true. So there's some very good financial advisors out there that may not have a Google review, an Adviser Rating review, or any review whatsoever. But I think, and the reason why that I've often asked my clients for reviews is because they've got no issue in endorsing us, or they've had good results and they want to write something nice. So if your decision to go and see someone is going to be based on reviews, I think it should be more than just 5 stars. That if they've taken the time to write something that's going to be with some detail, it shows there's a good relationship there. So I think that if it's going to be based on reviews before you make that first appointment, which I'd recommend you do, the more detail people are writing about probably shows the depth of the relationship. Yeah,
definitely. If they've taken the time and effort to write something quite long, then they've got a great bond with that advisor, and they're probably a good advisor.
Yeah, more than likely. I think chatting with friends and family is obviously, they're going to know someone that they've worked with for many years, and if that person is consistent and turns up and provides the same advice and is not flicking all over the place and getting distracted by shiny new investment things or whatever it is, there's a level of consistency there. So that can be used obviously as a start. So a referral from a family member or a friend, I think, is important. Also asking your accountant or your solicitor.
Yeah, that's actually a really good one. Because accountants and solicitors work very closely with financial advisors, so they will know who is reliable, who gets back to them quickly, who their clients have also passed on good reviews about. That's a great spot to look.
I think most people will talk about their professional person, and the same way we talk about our clients. And we like them as people, and that's if if the clients or the professional like us, that he's good to work with, prompt and do what we say we will do, I think that's a good place to start as well, because your accountant will let you know if that person is completely, not efficient and doesn't do what they say they do. So you want someone that's going to be true to their word and get stuff done. So they will have years of experience working with different people, and may well have preference on who to go to and also who not to go to.
Well, they might not specifically say who not to go to, but I think if there's no hesitation on he's a great person, or he's a good bloke, or she, it speaks volumes. And I think one thing we always try to do is the accountant, the solicitor can be involved in the advice process. It's a team effort as well. So really, referrals, family, friends, your professionals. So you get to a stage where you've gone through that process, you've been given some names, and then you read all the reviews or no reviews, and you finally pluck up the courage to get on book an online appointment or make a phone call and book a first appointment. What should the person be asking for, and what should they be looking for, Amy, when they first roll in for that appointment? Well, I think you just obviously want a well-presented person, but also somebody that's not going to push too hard in terms of sales pitch. I think education is always going to be the number one foundation layer of a relationship, and making sure that the client is on board with the advisor's views, and the only way to do that really is to educate on the pros and the cons of anything, the alternatives, and make sure that it's an informed decision that the client can make at the end of the day. So make sure this person is open and not, I think a lot of advisors can hold strategies very close to their chest and not want to say too much without being paid first, or whatever the reason might be. But I think having someone that's transparent, honest, happy to educate should be a green flag.
And I think that education process is really justifying and showing the reason why there's recommendations and strategies that, in that first appointment, I know I'm very much an open book, and I know I can have these conversations and essentially tell people what I will do in that first appointment for them, and then provide them the reason why, and because I know it's just too hard. The system is too hard, and people say, just do it, make sure I can retire well, make sure I know how much I can spend, and tell me what to do and then do it for me. So I feel confident, particularly in my small country town, and as we're chatting to people all over Australia for their appointments, people just want help, and they want to deal with someone they can trust. But we always start with education, not a sales pitch. And I think being pushed to make a decision, that would worry me.
And I think people feel that when you do talk about in a sales pitchy tone or anything, people know that they're being sold on something, in inverted commas. They don't want to feel like that. You want to have a feeling of trust, and yes, this person is educated, they know what they're talking about, they've explained why, and there's all these different strategies that they are well aware of, but I don't have the time to do it myself, so I'm happy to pay that person to do it for me.
So Amy, in terms of those first appointments, how many advisors should people go and have a chat to? You hear someone's great, is that enough? If the trust and the bond is there and you get that right feeling, these are the right people, is seeing one enough, or is it better off to go and see a couple with different strategies, or different strategies or different ways of doing things?
I think I've obviously never been in the position to go out and seek personal financial advice, but I would probably recommend, if someone's on the fence about seeing someone for the first time, then why not go ahead and see somebody else? You'll get a feel straight away to think, that first person was exceptional and I was right to feel that connection with that person. Or okay, no, maybe this person is a little bit better in some way or another. So I don't think it hurts to see multiple people, but if you do know straight away that there's a bond there, this person is educated, they're going to be aware of all the strategies and act in your best interests, then why not go ahead as well?
And I think if it is just one person, because you get the right feeling, and that feeling is trust. That you really trust this person is going to put your needs and objectives first, that person should also be able to explain the alternatives as well.
Yes.
We're in an industry where there is just so many products, so many, we're different because of X. The rules really don't change in terms of investing. Definitely the rules change around superannuation and so on. But even the other day when I was having a chat to a prospective client, and they sent through terms of engagement from a financial advisor in a completely different town to us. And the advice that was given, I completely didn't agree with it at all, and it was all product laden, which I'm not a fan of. Investment bond at 30%, where the marginal tax rate is 34.5 with Medicare about to come down to 32, and you tie it up into
locked away investment.
Locked away investment that's expensive to run from a fee point of view. So I think that's where, and it's difficult for a retail investor who's going to see someone to know whether is that good advice or not. And 100%. So that's where I think, if you just meet with someone and you have a first appointment and go, gee, that was great, but then go back and say, well, if I went to someone else, what's an alternative to what you said? Educate me further to know.
It's exactly like, living in Australia and being told that property is the only way to invest and grow your wealth and automate your savings, but it's compared to what? It's not educating yourself to know that there's different asset classes that provide a better return.
Cool.
It's the exact same thing.
In terms of those initial appointments, which we provide, 2 or 3 sometimes at no cost without pushing a person, when obviously we're not after that signature, definitely at the initial stage we need to see if we can help. But at what stage should people expect to say, well, I've probably used up a significant amount of time without committing? What's your thoughts there, Amy?
I think if you are spending a significant amount of time and the advisor isn't putting anything, in place for I don't know what reason. So
showing the direction properly, not getting to the point fast enough.
Is the water being too muddied, or are you just not expressing your want for action soon? I'm not sure what that scenario looks like, to be honest.
I suppose just where those first appointments just extend on and there's no decisions made, but that's where, and at some stage, the business will need to charge something. And I suppose we don't probably see that scenario much with ourselves, do we? So, but we get to the crux of the issue pretty quickly. We know where we can add value. We know where they need help, so we can really distill it down, hopefully in pretty clear and succinct terms to know they know their direction. But that may not be always the case. There are some incredible technical people out there that may not be the best at explaining complex things.
That's true. If it is just a matter of education in all of those appointments, trying to get different strategies across or points across, then it may blow out a little bit, but at the end of the day you do want somebody that can explain something in simple terms that you understand, as well as other options, and have some direction.
And I think when choosing an advisor, I think the advising, obviously trust is the main issue here, and part of that is full disclosure of fees and charges, both initial and ongoing, should be disclosed upfront, very early on in the piece.
And you should be able to ask that without fear of anything, and be told something straight away, not, we'll assess this and this and then maybe get back to you. It should be pretty clear in the advisor's mind what the fee will be. We always expect it, and if we don't get that question, really in that appointment number 1, we will explain it and tell people exactly what advice costs initially on an ongoing basis. But I think it's important to ask further questions. That it's not just the cost for the advice, initial and ongoing. It's also what other related costs might there be in terms of products and portfolios and managed funds and ETFs. There's layers of fees, and that's one thing that is often not quite as clear. We have an obligation to tell people what we get paid verbally, and we do this right at the start so people can make a choice. And before we go ahead with a statement of advice, which is our legal obligation, we're telling people, so there are no surprises, and we don't go ahead with that document
until we got the client saying, yes, we understand, yes, we know what's cost, we know what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And so we're not wasting our time or the client's time.
Yeah. So I think that's a great point. If you are going to see a financial advisor, it's not only the upfront cost for the advice itself and implementation, the ongoing cost of yearly reviews, but also what's going to be the product cost associated. Because you may, like we saw with that proposal from a prospective client, all of these recommendations which sounded fine to somebody that doesn't know any different, but it doesn't say any of the product costs, and we knew inherently that those products are very, very expensive because it's not direct investing in the own name, it's within fund managers and funds within funds.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's probably something that doesn't get asked a lot that should be, and or the advisor will tell you in the first appointment if their style of investing is direct or if they like to outsource and use fund managers that cost an extra fee.
Yep. But what about if advisors had some sort of order placed on them for previous advice, can we go to the ASIC, the Australian Securities Investment Commission, do a search there? I'm quite sure that you can go and see the history of how long the advisor's been in the industry for.
Yeah. I believe that's on the MoneySmart Register.
MoneySmart
Adviser Register.
Yeah. Yep. So you can go there and find information which we'd recommend as well. That will give an idea of how long the person's been in the industry,
yep.
whether there's been any banning orders where they've been out of the industry for doing something.
Yeah, it'll also have just qualifications and membership associations. So you being a self-managed super fund specialist, it'll have that on there as well.
Cool. So speaking of qualifications, coming from the person with the double degree in accounting and financial planning, it's embarrassing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You should be very proud of this, Amy. All the hard work that you've done. Qualifications. Obviously, there's been changes in our industry. What's your thoughts on qualifications?
Yeah, so nowadays for a new entrant into our industry, you do need to have a bachelor degree or higher. So all the new ones will have that, but if you want to look back at even the old ones now, the cut-off date has passed that everyone has to achieve that level of qualification. We then have to pass a exam as well, financial advice.
Yeah, I think there's a few dates that have passed, but advisors have all been gearing up. Okay. And I think it's the start of, it might be January 26 where they've got to have their full qualifications done. Okay. But there is the phaser exam.
Yep.
So there's multiple levels, and that's why financial advisors went from, after the Banking Royal Commission, went from 28,000 down to, we'll probably see 15,000, and some of those aren't active advisors either. So the industry's been smashed.
Yeah.
But it's also what it has done. It's made sure the people that you're dealing now, that they've got some pretty decent qualifications.
Yeah.
But it's not just about qualifications, is it?
No.
Yeah.
It's not about just that initial study. We also are required to do CPD hours on an ongoing basis to keep our qualifications. So some people that have dropped off just aren't, passionate about the industry anymore and don't want to continuously learn. So we do need to keep 40 hours of professional development in different areas of advice to keep our qualifications as well. I
think one thing that's worth chatting about, and I think it's a pet peeve of clients, when we're chatting with new clients, that they might be with an industry fund or back in the day a bank, and I had the advisor Steve, and he was great, really lovely guy, and then all of a sudden 2 years later, Steve's gone, and you've got someone else who's there for 6 months, and so a bigger corporate company often might seem good because it's a big company, but then you've just got this turnover. You build a relationship and it's gone. So might a small business where you're dealing with one of the managing directors, one of the partners of the business that's got skin to the game, I think that should be a bit of a consideration.
Yeah, true. And I know Consortium, our business, is self-licensed, so we're not affiliated with any product providers or banks, and there's no longer any commissions in the investment world, so there's no conflicts of interest in that sense. But I do actually wonder if you do go to a retail super fund, say you're with a Ware Super, and you use their financial advisor who just simply tells you to roll from accumulation phase in super to pension and stay in that product. They're not obligated to quote the market and compare your fund against all the other funds. They're just providing that simple advice to go from accumulation to pension and stay in.
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting point.
Yeah, well, I know we've had another advisor that had a client walk in with a statement of advice document from, I believe it was Aware Super, cost I think $3,300 for this statement of advice, which is quite considerable in my opinion, because it was just to go from accumulation to pension phase as they were retiring,
Right.
and there was no external personal advice as part of that.
Yeah, there really weren't tackling goals, objectives, is your estate planning right, is all these other things taken care of. Yeah, and I think we had, and again, it was one of the other partners in our business that, you know, met with people with all this complexity, with all this debt and so many things happening and approaching retirement. And they rang their industry super fund saying, you don't need advice now because you're not going from accumulation to pension. But there were so many other things, goals and objectives that this client actually needed to look at and make decisions on. But because it didn't fall in the realms of simple advice, they said, you don't need advice now, which was so far from the truth.
Yeah.
But getting back to that issue, I think longevity of dealing with the same advisor, I think, is one thing that you can be cheeky enough to ask. And over the years, people have asked me, Rob, what happens if you die? You know, some of them feel guilty in asking that. Some of them ask it to have a laugh, and so do I. But it is an issue.
It is.
So probably not the dying part. It's probably the turnover of advisors at a business. Yep. That's the bit that annoys people.
Yeah.
If someone retires, someone dies, well, that's a bit beyond their control.
And it is about building that relationship. If you have a solid and good relationship with your advisor, they will want to make sure that you're taken care of when they do eventually wind back their hours or move on to another industry, whatever it is.
Yep.
So they will incorporate that, you know, succession advisor in just to plant the seed and help you transition because they care about you.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's it's very difficult to build trust. It's like our doctor. You get a doctor, you build trust, you feel comfortable. They're gone. And so I think that you can be very frank and you can ask them these questions. Are you going to be about for a good while?
Yeah.
And I'd probably preempt that and explain to people that whilst I am about to turn 52, I hope to be doing this job till I'm 75, possibly in a part-time role as I get older, and if I've got my faculties, I will be here for a long time.
Yeah.
Whilst making my own memories and having fun along the way. That's not just work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Anything else, or have we covered enough?
I hope we've covered enough.
Cool.
If anyone has any other questions for us though, or any other topics they'd like us to cover along the way, definitely reach out to us on either YouTube, Investor Motivation, or TikTok and Instagram. I am The Wealth Diaries on both, and Rob is Robert Gowdy on both.
Yep, fantastic. Thank you, Amy. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Cheers.
Bye.